like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather today, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Inspired by Yarra. This is the podcast that's been created to enhance, connect and inspire the Yarra Valley Grammar community and beyond. So wherever you're listening from today, I want to say thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for coming along for the ride. My name's Paul Joy, and as the host of this podcast, it is my privilege and my pleasure to sit down with another YOG, a Yarra Old Grammarian, each episode. And it is a privilege to be able to share their stories here on this podcast. And today I'm going to share with you a conversation that I had with Andrew Morrow from the class of 1984. He is from a different generation. He arrived midway through year 9 for what is many people one of the toughest years of schooling, socially and academically and acceptance-wise, and he was challenged in the midst, and yet landed on his feet. Really appreciate his ability to reflect, to consider, to wonder about his journey, and to impart and share the wisdom along the way, and his newfound appreciation for his own journey and the willingness to share that, and now the investment in seeking to find ways to contribute to the lives of others. I think you're going to enjoy his or our conversation as we reflect on sport and career and working with your hands and fatherhood and future and travel and the tastes and sights and sounds of the world. Andrew Morrow from the class of 1984. I begin this conversation by asking him when in fact he did come to Yarra. When did his Yarra Valley Grammar journey begin?
I actually came through halfway through the year. I was year 9, ended up halfway through year 9. I think my parents had me down for year 10 and someone left halfway through the year, and we got a phone call with about 2 weeks notice and said there's an opportunity if you want to take it. Otherwise, I think I was still at number 6 on the list. So I just remember the parents saying it's probably a good idea to take it, rather than try and wait to the end of the year. So I came through. I knew one guy that I played tennis with on a Sunday coaching, and knew no one in year 9. So it was. I don't remember it being that stressful or daunting, although it did probably manifest probably another year down the track through a little bit of stress and that I didn't really appreciate through migraines and that. But it was a fairly smooth transition, I suppose. I found that I was probably about 6 months behind in academically. So although I was, at that stage, doing okay, Yarra was, from where I'd come from, a Bayswater High School, the state system, probably about 6 months ahead. So took a little bit of lunchtime, a few extra classes at lunchtime for that second half of year 9 to probably catch up to where everything was at. So.
And do you have a sense that that's why your parents were interested in making a move to Yarra, because there was a sense that perhaps you had a little bit of improving to do fairly quickly?
Yeah, look, to be honest, the main reason was the principal had changed at Bayswater High probably about 4 or 5 years ago. So the quality of the teachers and that, I'd spent probably the first 6 weeks of year 9 without an English teacher. She was on maternity leave, didn't come back, and there wasn't a replacement teacher. So we literally had 3 classes for about the first term. Maths was nearly the same. So all of a sudden it was a bit of like, geez, we're going to struggle with the quality of or the commitment, because we didn't know at that stage whether it was going to be how long the principal was going to be there. So it seemed that's where the school was on a bit of a downhill turn from where it had been. It had been a reasonably good public school probably 10 years before. So yeah, it was that. So it was a big decision for my parents, being pretty well kind of working class. Mum had to go back to work to literally pay for it. So it was a big commitment for her. So that was, and it was just it was more just the opportunity from what they could see. The academic opportunity was going to be a lot greater than where we were.
And you're right, there's a whole lot wrapped up in a decision like that, isn't there? There's the commitment of the family to be able to afford to be able to do that. There's also got to be a willingness from the young person. I mean, I've been around schools a long time. I've worked with Year 9s. I know a lot of Year 9 kids who would be rapt at the idea of a couple of free lessons every time you've got English or maths and somewhere along the line you've taken on board that actually this is not as good as it probably should be. I'm open to going to this new school. I only know one bloke, but I'm going to put myself way out of my comfort zone. I'm really rapt to hear that it was so smooth, at least initially.
Yeah, I think, I'm fairly easygoing. I think I love sport, and I think that was certainly a way to actually get into the community, the Year 9 group. So I think sport does that in many different facets of life. If you can join a team and be part of that team component, it certainly helps fit in. So that enabled me to get in, I suppose. And I think, yeah,
there's no doubt it helps for sure, particularly amongst the boys, I think, and that might be a bit gender stereotypical, but certainly back in those days, if you could catch a ball, if you could kick a footy, if you could hit a ball, then you've got some standing somewhere at least. So if you were playing sport, what sort of environment were you in? Were you on a court? Were you on the oval? Were you indoors, outdoors? What was your sport?
So I was pretty fortunate. I got on well with most sports, but I played in the Yarra Valley tennis team in summer, and I played soccer in winter. So that was kind of the main two sports that I followed all the way through.
And is there a particular scene, a moment, match point, or you kicked the winning goal, or was there a big save that you did? Was there a moment in your sporting career at Yarra that jumps to mind when you think of highlights?
I'll give you two, one at the bottom and one at the top. So I was at tennis. I remember playing, I think it was down at, it might have been Ivanhoe, and I got done 9-0 in singles. So I still remember that one. But I remember in year 10, I got asked to play up in the I can't remember what you call it, year 12 or the senior team.
In the ones, the A team.
In the one team, yeah. So I got to play a half. So we played, because we're both playing at the same venue. I played in year 10 at say 10:30 and at 11:30 or whatever. I played the first half, and my last kick in that half, I kicked over the keeper's head and put it in for a goal. I remember going home, and no mobile phones or anything at that stage, so I didn't know what the score was until I got back to school on Monday morning and found out that we lost 4-1. But at least, so my one boot at least got on the scorecard. So that was, I still remember that one.
And surely there's the conversation with the coach that says, "Coach, if you'd left me on for the second half, we might have had a chance."
I was a bit overawed. I think that I'd actually been, because I wasn't a big kid, but I was, there was another mate of mine, Ross Cameron, so he was captain of year 10 and I was the vice captain. So, but yeah, something showed out for the ones, the coach, and obviously they were short, so that helped.
But you've got to take your opportunity, don't you? And sounds, was that the only goal you kicked ever?
No, because then obviously I went through. I mean, Ross and I ended up being captain and vice captain in the ones the following year. So I did. I played actually more midfield when I was at Yarra. So probably only kicked one or two other goals after that. So it was a bit of a fluke, I suppose.
Oh, no. Don't say that. The people who listen to this, and the stories are meant to get better, and, you twisted and turned and dodged. And we're speaking with Andrew Morrow from the class of 1984. Andrew, some great sporting memories, and I appreciate you sharing those. What about, let me take you back into the classroom. Where did you tend to hang out? Was there a particular faculty, subject area where you either shone or you really battled and are quite proud of your effort to stick with it?
Yeah, look, always was the math science stream. That's basically numbers was my game. English was the great stress. The ability to put pen to paper, as always, still to the day, is still where I struggle. So it was certainly the fear and what I had to work hardest at. And although the maths came reasonably easy, it wasn't I didn't not enjoy the English. I mean, I wasn't a great reader, but I did enjoy topics and discussing topics and reading books. I just wasn't a fast reader. And I was lucky that in year 10 that I ended up with Mr. Carroll, Dennis Carroll. And he was, I reckon his personality suited me in terms of he's pretty straight down the line, and gave me effectively a formula, because that's what, as a maths student, you're kind of looking for the magic formula just to get you over the line. So I had him in year 10 and gave me a little bit of hope that I was at least going to maybe crack a C and not hang around D. Year 11 or Form 5, a little bit more open. I can't actually remember her name now, but I know a couple of mates absolutely loved one of the female teachers there. But you were asked in year 11, who do you want for English? And I know that I put Dennis Carroll down as number one, and I was really sweating on being able to get into his class. So without him, in the end, believe it or not, maths ended up being my best subject, which knocked me for socks. I think it put a lot of work into it, knowing full well, excuse me, that don't pass English, you don't go to university. So that was a fair driver. But he certainly, just probably helped me, gave me some good feedback in terms of structure of writing and so forth. I was always reasonable in class. I mean, I could discuss him and you get enough out of me. I wasn't sitting back not participating, but to get the ideas in a written format on a piece of paper was always a struggle.
You are aging yourself a little when you keep talking about getting your ideas onto a piece of paper. I mean, for me, I love pen and paper, and that is my preference. That is my go-to even today. But nowadays, young people, if they know which end of a pencil to use, it's remarkable, because technology is certainly something that has catapulted into our existence, and there are many benefits. There's many good things about it. But what I want to take you back to is a comment that you made there about Dennis Carroll, an English teacher. And in fact, to be fair, we've heard of Dennis a number of times in this podcast series. His name comes up a lot as an influential, motivational, really personable teacher. But I love that he's been able to find your language in terms of a mathematical approach, a formula, and he's found the buttons to push for you that enabled English to come or to become possible for you to engage with. Any other teachers or any other moments that you feel they were really influential? This is the Inspired by Yarra podcast. Were you inspired by anything else at Yarra?
Really, that was a lot of my focus, especially in year 11 and 12, because it was the risk or the weakest component. So the rest of it, the maths and science, look, we had some fun in maths, and he's going to kill me because I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but just the way he brought maths and computations and in, that was great. It was reasonably, school for me, I think I was lucky. It was, relatively enjoyable 99% of the time. So, I love going to school. I love getting out, and because, there was a fair sporting component. Coming to Yarra Valley, it was compulsory Saturday morning sport. Well, that was all new to me, but to me, that was fantastic. I was playing sport anyway, so that was great. So I think I got through the education system, so to speak, relatively unscathed in terms of negative inputs. It was really Dennis that took off the stress. The chemistry, physics, maths, double maths was pretty uneventful. I don't necessarily think, as Mr. Banks was year 11 teacher. I don't remember anything being hugely inspired. I mean, I probably got in with about four or five guys that were close mates that we're still close mates today, and it was more that camaraderie, I suppose, that they were supportive or help me if I was needed a little bit of help in it. But it in general was a fairly smooth run. It was nothing that was really standing out that I sought or was or had some inspiration that kind of got me through. But looking back on it, I always look at Dennis and probably one of my first employers as two pivotal or inspirational people in my life that's kind of set me up to go ahead and do some things that probably I wouldn't have done normally, or got me out of my comfort zone, I suppose.
So somewhere between the inspiration of school and the inspiration of perhaps your first employer, there's probably some other things that are happening. Take us to the part of your journey where you combine a bit of maths, a bit of science, a little bit of English, because you were now able to get pen to paper and get your ideas on paper. But what happens when you leave school? Do you go to uni? Do you go to TAFE? Do you go straight into the workforce? What happens next?
Yeah, it was sitting there, and the reason why I probably got involved a couple of weeks ago when Rosie asked me to come back and talk to year 10s. Since I've got a year 10 myself, son that's doing the same thing, was reflecting back on what happened for myself in year, say, 11 and 12 in careers. I don't remember, I remember, I think maybe once we had a bit of career advice. It was, well, what are my mates doing? Well, the four of them are doing engineering. Oh, well, I'll do engineering. That sounds all right. It's maths. I enjoy that. There's a lot of engineering out there. There's civil, there's mechanical, aeronautical, whatever. The choice, I remember kind of sitting down and just saying, well, I like being outside. I like digging holes in the veggie patch type of thing. Had a little bit of a green thumb. I'll pick the one that I think will get me outside. So I picked civil engineering. The marks got me into RMIT, and I went straight into it. In hindsight, I probably, and it'll be interesting to reflect with my son in a couple of years when he's at the same point. If I had taken a year off, I nearly think it probably would have made the tertiary 4 years a more enjoyable experience. I distinctly remember going into first year and thought, my God, this is HSC on steroids. This is now not 5 subjects. This is now 12 subjects, 12 exams mid-year, 12 exams at the end of the year. And, oh, that's right, and there's no support. Oh, shit. there's no teacher. There's no Dennis Carroll kind of coming around on the table and saying, how you going? And you're just sitting on the back of the lecture theatre. So, although certainly Yarra Valley and going through the year HSC experience got you set you up with a system to get you into tertiary, you still had to really struggle hard, I think, to find your feet. I always didn't know whether, if you got there through the private school system compared to the public school system, whether the public school kids were just a little bit more self-motivated and a bit grittier and tougher to actually get through that, move into this transition. I certainly had skill sets that I'd learnt and been taught. I found actually, reflecting back on it the other day, is that I literally was able to once again go and find another 3 or 4 other students that we had common interests, and it was basically through sport that we had the common interests, and together the 4 of us went through the 4 years of university. Because I certainly lost my way second year, got sidetracked, didn't put in the first semester, failed 9 out of 12 exams first half of second year, and really had to work hard to pass them all by the end. Third and fourth year started to make sense. There was a little connection with actually what was this course about in the real world. Fourth year, you dropped a lot of subjects. You back down to 5 subjects, back to HSC conditions. And it was more relevant to what I thought this tertiary education was going to lead me into. So it was a big adjustment. I think I was probably I remember second year I was nearly burnt out. It had been literally 4 years of just hard slog. It was a lot of it was study every night. It was working Fridays, Saturdays to earn a bit of money. Sunday afternoon, I remember, from 2 o'clock till 6 o'clock, it was study again. And that was, and as much as, I'd much rather be outside, probably hitting a tennis ball or a golf club than sitting in front of a desk studying. It was for me, it was a grind, and it did take, till probably third year to kind of make it a little bit more enjoyable rather than just a straight grind. So I got to end of the fourth year, and that's when I did take a year off. One of my mates from Yarra Valley, he'd done the same. He was saved some money, and he was heading overseas, and that's all of a sudden just became my passion, is to travel. And so I finished up. I was working on building sites in the city for about 6 months to save some money. The year after, and did the classic, European Euro pass, and off we went. Met my mate was in the States. He flew across to London. I met him in London, and we spent about 4.5 months, 5 months backpacking around the UK and England, and that was probably a pivotal moment in my life. I suppose it brought home what was important or what I really enjoyed doing in life, and that was certainly travelling and just getting my eyes opened up to what there is around the world and different cultures and food, and I always loved history, and I probably I suppose there's the numbers part of it as well that comes into history, but I loved a lot of the reading that I did as a kid was historical books. They were fiction, but with a historical basis. So English history through the Tudors times, and that's travelling into environments where there was buildings that were 1,000 years old and castles and so forth. That was that really was what I got out of the trip. Travel for me is probably core to what makes me tick.
That's a fascinating little series of posts along your journey, and you look back and it kind of makes sense now. I wonder where your parents sit in all of this. You've worked really hard, you've got through HSC, you've got what you needed to get, you're into uni, and you go, wow, this is even bigger, this is more, this is harder. And then you get to the end of that and you work for a little bit and you go, actually, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to go and travel. Like, what's your parents' perspective on that? Are they saying, no, hang on a minute, you haven't done all this just to go off and go skiving off around the world? Or were they for it?
Look, they were definitely for it. So, my parents were completely different. Had a father that started work at 13 and hated school, but played every sport under the sun. So I got the sporting component from him. He was very competitive and kind of driven in that regard. But sadly, I think I look back and he probably hated nearly every day of the 45 years of his working career. Ended up in the bank, worked 40 years in the bank, and and probably just didn't enjoy it. My mother, on the other hand, being the era that she came out of, born in 39 through the war and so forth. In year 10, got 100 for maths, 100 for English, but had to leave school to go and work to bring money into the house. So academically, got the reins off mum to a certain degree. And mum's always been a massive reader. Dad's never read. But history has always been, mum's loved history. So travelling, had she had the opportunity, and she did later in life, which was fantastic, she was all for go and see the world. So Dad, I never really knew whether Dad thought it was I'm blowing the opportunity and hang on, I've just we've worked our backside to get you through secondary education and and supported you through the tertiary, and geez, you think, but I Look, mind you, I mean, I was working 90 hours a week on building sites for the 6 months, starting at 2 a.m. in the morning and finishing at 6, 7 o'clock at night. It was a boom time. It was fortunate that Jeff Kennett was in, and all the exhibition buildings and everything was being built, and I was working as an assistant surveyor. So awesome time to, even though I wasn't working in my field as such, I was exposed to construction, which I've always loved, working with my hands and building. So to work on those sites and to get paid was awesome. And then to go and travel, what turned out or ignited the passion, I suppose, inside. Both parents were really supportive. Dad had travelled to New Zealand, I think, on a golfing holiday for about 3 weeks. Mum had been out of Victoria twice at that stage. But I'm so grateful that Dad passed away probably 15 odd years ago. I then encouraged Mum to go, and she's travelled once to New Zealand, once to Canada, and 3 times to London, and a couple of times with us, and has been able to fulfil her passion for desire for travel as well. So certainly, backed up by my mum into going and travelling.
Fantastic. And there's no doubt that there's so much learning that happens, and as you mentioned, your eyes are opened, and all of a sudden there's these new perspectives and ideas and beliefs and foods and cultures and buildings and architecture, and it just goes on and on and on. But I'm intrigued by your dad's approach to work really hard, but work really hard for 40 years and hate it. Like that's I think, when I think of my own background and my own dad and grandpa and so forth, there was a time when that's just what you put up with. But it's probably a little different now for your generation, for me, and certainly for the younger generation, those who are, you mentioned your year 10 son and the young people who are around school nowadays. You've come out of university, you've got your degree, you've got a bit of work experience, you've got a bit of travel experience. Then what happens? Do you create a job that you love? Do you fall back into a pattern that's following dad, and you're just doing what dad did because he showed me what real hard work is all about, and whether I like it or not doesn't matter? Like, it seems to me that you're the sort of person who's gonna make things the way you want them.
Yeah, it's actually, for me, luck. For the first, I'm 50, going on 54, so I've been working 30 odd years, have not had to find one job in the 6, 7 companies that I worked for. And I look back, and then you get to 54, and you do kind of reflect back and think about where your son and what careers he's going to end into. I came back not knowing what I was going to do, and a mate of mine from uni found out that I was back 2 days after I got back, and he was working for a council he was a civil engineer, and he said, they've just had interviews, you should ring up my boss, which I did on the Thursday. He said, we'll come down tomorrow, Friday, and Monday morning at 10 o'clock he rang me up at Brighton Council and said, do you want to start? And I thought, shit, I haven't even unpacked the bag at that stage. I was just grateful to, I had no real perception out of the 4 mates that I went through university with. They all went on to jobs. I took the year off, they all went on. And so 2 of them or 3 of them went into private industry. They were on Lend-Lease and big construction jobs. And one guy, he went down to Brighton City Council, and he was one that rang me, and he said there was a job going. So once again, pretty fortunate get this job and have a boss who was quite progressive. I mean, councils back in those days was nearly still got a job for life. If you start there at 24, you could be still there at 64. It was a time when councils was going to get a shake-up, not that we knew at the time, but 3 years later, Jeff Kennett amalgamated all the councils in Victoria, so it shrunk from 280 to 87. So there was a big shake-up in the industry. But I was really fortunate that I literally had 4.5 years there and I had the deputy city engineer kind of took me under his wing a bit, and he loved golf, and there was 2 golf courses at Brighton that we owned, and he got me involved in a bit of golf course design. So I've always been good at drawing and that creating useful stuff. So in terms of the building, I mean, that's why, and you end up as an engineer, I suppose. But so I was designing roads and some greens and tees at Brighton Golf Course, and it was a very small council back in those days. So I would get a chance to go out and do the surveying and then work with the workers and actually control or project manage the job. Now, I knew nothing. I didn't know, and I knew how to dig a hole, but I didn't know what an excavator did or grader or all the rest of it. So it was a really quick learning curve, and I was exposed to a fair bit very early on that probably as a young engineer you probably wouldn't. You either stay in design and kind of do your 3 or 4 years of design, but I was kind of jumping in and out of designing Monday to Thursday, and then Friday I'd go out and actually watch it being built. So that was certainly helped me a lot. And then there was a job came up at down at the Brighton City Council, had their own depot, where back in the day we ran our own garbage trucks, plumbers, electricians, parks and gardens. And there was they created a works manager's position, and he was going to be in charge of the carpenters, the plumbers, the drainers, the garbos, back in the days as they were known, the street construction. And the deputy city engineer, Ray Butley, said, you should go for that job. I said, I'm 2 years out. I mean, I wouldn't know how to run it whatsoever. He said, no, you should go for it. Unbeknownst to me, the operations manager down there and him, they wanted an engineer. They wanted to kind of lift the profile, I suppose. I mean, most of the people that came into that works manager role had done 15, 20 years in the council. Knew how to lay asphalt on the road and crush rock and a bit of concrete and do other things in terms of all the council workload. And so those guys were 40, 45 going for those jobs, and here I am at 25, 26. And looking back, I know they set it up and they chose me. So I walked into a job at 26 where I had garbage guys that were ex-wharfies in their 50s, and they just looked at me and said, we're going to give it to you, and they did. So for 6 months, I learnt how to communicate. It was they did ask me in the interview. They said, "So what's the biggest hurdle you think?" I said, probably trying to get some respect out of our garbage workers." And they said, "Well, that's probably right. So what are you going to do about it?" I said, "I'm going to go run garbage." And garbage started at 5 o'clock. So they worked from 5 till 11:30, and the rest of the staff worked from 7 till 3:30. So my second week there, I snuck in at 4 o'clock in the morning into my office and had my runners on, and they were filling up the trucks from the fuel station. And I opened the door in the pitch black, and they turned around and just looked at me and said a few choice words. And they said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm here to give you a hand." So I jumped on the back of the truck. I didn't have a truck license, so I couldn't drive. So it was me. And back in the days, we were literally picking the bins up and putting them into the back. And so I ran garbage for the week. We had 5 crews, and I ran a crew every day. For me, it's always been, if I can't do it, then I can't tell anyone else to do it. I've got to understand how hard or easy it is, and I would never ask someone to do something that I wouldn't have do it myself. So that was a bit of a induction of fire. Got through a couple of arbitration situations with some of my staff, which was even more fun. I was very fortunate. The operations manager, Ron Smith, was a bit of a seasoned. He was a country guy, been in local government for probably 25 years, so he kind of knew ins and outs, everything. He took me under my wing at that stage and literally showed me basically the skills, the tools I needed if I was going to stay in this construction business, because it's a bit of a unique business. It's not far off the dinosaur stage. It's changed a little in 30 years, but it'd have to be one of the careers that hasn't changed a whole heap. Very male dominated, which I was so happy to see probably half a dozen young women at school, year 10, 11 and 12, sitting in front of the screen with the other day. Not enough women are in engineering, and especially in civil, being the one outside. Needs to probably change to provide a better work environment for that career.
And just to confirm, when you talk about just the other day, you're talking about a thing that is available to our students at year 10 and maybe again at year 12 or maybe year 11, but speed careering, where they get to sit down with YOGs, Yarra old grammarians, and talk a little bit about what work is really like. And so you get, as a seasoned professional in civil engineering and council work and golf design and probably a couple of other things that we haven't yet touched on, and you get to share your wisdom, your experience, your highs, but also the challenges that you faced along the way. So when you say just a couple of weeks ago, that's what you're referring to, yes?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I'd literally 2 weeks beforehand had through my son's school, there was an online careers, probably an hour session, and I knew, and Rosie had asked, and this is literally the first time in 36 years that I've kind of got in contact with the Yarra Valley. So I think I went to the year one, the 10th year reunion, and that was about the last time I've actually had any formal contact with the school. But I could see, I look at both now, the opportunity. I think what you're doing, or what the school is doing, bringing ex-students back to literally share. Now, I don't know effectively how much the kids got out of it, how the students got out of it, but to me, it was a much, it would give the students a lot more insight than listening to an hour of a teacher or careers teacher without being dismissal of what they gave. And it was a great session that my kids have. But, if my son had a computer scientist and that to talk to, hopefully there's a bit more of a spark and an interest to say, well, yep, that's definitely the career I want to go into. Or, shit, I didn't know that. No, that's not what I want. I'll move somewhere else. But having said that, I think I've been in the same industry effectively, jumped in and out once, but for 30 odd years, I don't expect the students coming out now to stay in this industry, in their chosen initial industry, for probably more than 3 or 4 years. I think that they may go through 5 different industries. Their skill set and obviously the computer age will enable them to do that. So totally different working environment to what I've been through myself and previous.
You're quite right. Such is the way of the world and the working environment now. But it actually, I think it's just a reconfiguration of the terminology, because in your role, when you go down to council and you get on with the tools and you're getting a little bit of this, and then you're designing, and then you're actually on Fridays you're out building and seeing it construct, and then you move into a management role. Within that, nowadays we probably call that a couple of different careers, a couple of different jobs. Back in your day, in your generation, it was kind of all under the same umbrella, and but what helped you was that adaptability and that flexibility. And I think that's a big part for young people today, is to be able to have some initiative, be willing to jump in there at 4 o'clock in the morning, to be there to try and get on the back of one of those trucks. And look, to be fair, a lot of teenagers today probably don't know how the bins are collected even today, let alone back in your day, because, if they come through at 5, 6, 7, for some of them nowadays, even after that, they wouldn't even see a rubbish truck. But you have done the hard work, and I mean, I have great admiration for, football, and I remember a lot of the footballers used to be garbos because it was a great fitness workout before the day even began. And I guess there's just a tweak of, yes, we talk about, and I think you're right, they will have 3-year careers, 4-year careers, but they'll have 5 or 6 of them in their lifetime. You have probably done that without necessarily calling them different careers.
You're probably right. I mean, I've been fortunate that, I've got poached from one job to another, and the management, I've worked in small companies. So predominantly worked in small businesses after I left the council into private enterprise that had up to 20, 25 staff. So the owner was, I was working directly with them or directly under them. So if you don't get someone that a leader or an owner of a business that has some great leadership skills and compassion, all the rest of it, work can be, in that environment, can be quite, there's no enjoyment whatsoever. If you got to go to work and you've got a boss that's just going to give it to you every day, especially in this engineering construction industry, which certainly happens, there's no enjoyment whatsoever. I was fortunate that I had probably two bosses that I respected. Their knowledge and what they were able to impart on me was greatly appreciated. So that really did set myself up. And then I got to the stage that I had decided that, and this was before kids, that there was a moment when I was travelling way back after finishing uni. We're going up to Scotland, my mate of mine, and I realised what I really was wanted out of life was I really wanted to work to enable me to live a life that I really enjoyed, rather than I was just going to live to work. And so I was, the council was great. I started on a 9-day fortnight. Every second Monday had off. I mean, I thought, how good's this? I'm getting paid and I'm only working 9 days out of 10. I thought that was great. And then that cut short when I went into private industry. That was like, well, no, there's 24 hours in a day and there's 7 days in the week, so you can pretty well work every one of them if it need be. So I got to the stage where I had done that and worked on a couple of big sites around the tunnel and so forth, and got a little bit burnt out and got to the stage that, reflecting back, was I really following what really made me tick? No. The work-life balance was way out of whack. And so I always loved, I love plants and landscaping. So my wife and I threw it in. For 9 months, I built picket fences and a few other odd jobs. And then we started a landscaping business, a bit of your backyard blitz type of thing in domestic landscaping. And we did that for probably about 5 years. Had our son at that stage and made no money, but had a wow of a time in terms of work-life balance. So, talking, 32 to 37 years of age, whereas most of my mates were probably hitting their straps at that stage. They'd moved up through management to a certain degree. Some of them were, over in the States running big projects. But for me, we were travelling I've been fortunate to travel probably every 4 years. I'd take 6 weeks to 8 weeks off, and we'd go back to Europe. My wife's English, she's over here, but her family's back home. So, I continued on that, did the backpacking. 4 years later, took another 6 weeks off and travelled. Another 4 years later, went to another employer, but still took 4 weeks. So every 4 years, nearly effectively every 4 or 5 years over the last 30 odd years, I've taken a extensive holiday of about 6 to 8 weeks. So squirreled all my money away for about 3 or 4 years. Didn't really, we weren't going to Bali or Queensland or whatever, but put it aside and would then go and immerse myself overseas somewhere for that 6 weeks. And that was, for me, that's what makes me tick and regenerates the battery. So for 4 years, work really hard and then take a break. Otherwise, without knowing it, from my wife's point of view, you just effectively lose the plot and everything's about work and there's nothing else. So I was conscious of that. So we did that and threw it all in and did the landscaping business. That was good fun. It was just ticking all my passions in terms of I could design a backyard, I could go and build it, and had a relationship with a client that was directly with them. And you step back and have a look at, 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, total change in their backyard. So that was, kind of the interesting part. But it's all, for me, it wasn't a matter of climbing this corporate tree in civil engineering. It really, I've got to keep making sure that I keep looking back and saying, what is it I want to get out of this short time on this earth? And that's, I've got to try and get some enjoyment. And for me, enjoyment is travel, food, family and stuff. So, yeah, work is, I've been fortunate. I love nearly every day of my jobs that I've had. I've been involved in something that I've got enjoyment out of.
That's fantastic, and what a great aspiration for young people, as well as those who have perhaps been working for 20 years or 30 years. I think there is still a desire, and maybe it's unknown to some people, even still today, that you can actually be working in a role with people with a purpose that is enjoyable, that brings you pleasure. It may not bring rewards in other ways, but it then comes back to your values, what's really important, what really matters. And it seems to me that at the end of your uni, when you went and travelled, that really sparked a bit of a bug, and you've kept feeding that and finding a way to be able to make that possible for you. And then I guess the extension of that is you and your family, which is terrific. If things go really well for you, I don't know, let's say in the next 5 years, where have you been? Where's the destination? At the moment, we're not really thinking of travel, but that'll turn. What's a destination that you'd love to go and visit and explore?
We would love to. In the last 2 trips, we plonked ourselves in northern Italy for 6 weeks. Then 18 months ago, we plonked ourselves in northern Spain for 6 weeks. So we would love to go to southern France and go and plonk ourselves there for about 6 weeks to 2 months as well. I really, though it probably sounds a little bit boring, I just love Europe. Food is a major passion. So out of those 3 countries, for me, it doesn't get any better than immersing myself into a slower lifestyle that has a passion for food. And so I'm right at home, and I love the history from it. So that's the next aim. Had COVID not come in, I suppose, but we're still probably 3 or 4 weeks. I've got with my kids. Will hopefully one day they'll appreciate it. They've been overseas 5 times in their short space of time, so they've seen or had some fantastic experiences that I would have just died for had I been at their age. So year at year 8 and year 10, we're probably going to put it on hold until we get them through the next 4 years anyway. So whether they're invited on the next trip as 20-year-olds is probably another thing. But from my point of view, I'm really looking forward to 60 through years 60 to 70, because to me, I always look back and think 20 to 30, they were the golden years. They were absolutely free, no commitment to anything. What I earned, I spent. Justine, my wife, has the same passion for travel. That was what life was about. You saved, you worked hard, and you nipped off overseas for 6 weeks and just explored the world. I'm really looking forward. Hopefully, cross the fingers, health remains the number one priority, I suppose, because to do it between 60 and 70 is really something that is focused in my mind at the moment. So work is really just, I was talking to my mates the other day, it's a thing that's kind of crept up on me over the last probably year and a half, is I'm involved in sports design and construction, from running tracks to tennis courts, hockey fields, or whatever you name it. And it's a very small industry, and throughout Australia there's probably about 3 or 4 of us that design and build across all sporting codes. For me, it's time to put back in the new 20, 22, 23-year-old engineers that are coming out. It's to mentor them back into this sports field. And that's what I think for the next probably 4 or 5 years is what I'd like to do, is get into a role where I'm mentoring some 25, 30-year-old that's got, come straight out and has got a passion to, work and work hard, and really, impart the knowledge that 30 odd years worth in this industry and probably 15 the last in the sports, to pass it on. And that would give me as much pleasure as what the first 30 years have done. And then it's, get to 60 and I can't see myself not working until 70 in some, phase, whether it's, part-time consultancy or whatever. But there must be a rebalance back into that life of what really makes me tick, and that's the travelling between those years.
Andrew, you've spoken a little bit about leadership, particularly at work, and you had some great leaders in terms of business leaders, and they gave you opportunities. And now you've talked about the idea of being a mentor and helping to guide and maybe shape the lives of young people coming through. What for you is a good leader? What are some of the attributes? What are some of the characteristics of a good mentor or leader? What does that look like?
Well, for me, kind of reflecting on that a bit, someone that's got empathy, someone that's got actually compassion, someone that actually wants to teach. I'm in an industry where the dollar drives the outcome. It's a private industry business. It's like throwing money on the roulette table, and if it lands properly, you make money. If it don't, you're out of business. So that actual nature of construction and is a very cutthroat business, and therefore have seen it a lot where big businesses will finish a project and 2 weeks later, 15 staff engineers are sacked. There's no job to go on to. That's it. They're out the door. Now, there's no empathy that they have families, they have mortgages, they have whatever. But that's the industry that I've been involved in for 30 years. The best leaders that I've seen within that industry actually don't do that. They literally will make a sacrifice themselves, and predominantly it's a financial one, to keep you employed while we wait for the next job to turn up. And if you've, to find a leader in this industry that actually believes in that they're only as good as the staff that they employ, because at the end of the day, they can't go and do everything that their business does. They literally are sitting at the top of a tree that creates effectively whatever they want to see as success, whether it's wealth, whether it's position in the industry or whatever, but it doesn't come by the sheer will of themselves. It comes through, one, seeking good employees, understanding what a good employee is, but then being able to give back and mentor them through the process. So there's got to be certainly a lot of patience, but a willingness to train and a willingness to understand that we're all a human being and that we will fluctuate. We will have bad times. It's interesting in the civil game is we work outdoors, and we've just come in through winter and we've had a wet winter. So it's dark when we leave home and it's dark when we get home, and we've worked through the mud and cold all through the winter. So morale and productivity, the two more productivity that a boss is looking for, fluctuates through just the sheer seasonal changes in especially in Melbourne as compared to Queensland or somewhere. And if you don't take that into consideration and you still whip them as hard as you can in winter as in spring and summer, there's a massive change or turnover in the industry. People just get fed up with it. You kick the dog as hard as you can. Well, one day the dog's just going to bite and nick off. And the businesses that I've been fortunate enough to work to have had long-term visions or long-term employees. I always looked for, when someone asked me to go and work for someone, I said, well, how long have the staff been working there? And I've been working there 15 years, 20 years. And to me, that was an indication that there was a leader there that either inspired or provided a environment that the staff wanted to stay. I mean, we don't, my dad might have worked for the bank for 40 years. I mean, I've had 8 jobs in the 30 years, and I believe my son will probably have 30 jobs. So loyalty to one business is no longer a given, and there's so much opportunity out there. But for a leader to understand they're only as good as the people underneath, so to have people keep turning over and changing will make it very difficult for that business to be successful. So you must find as a leader, some way to engage your staff or your people that are working for you to stay with you. Now, I've got probably 3 young engineers working for me. I've got some in their 30s, and I've got one guy that's now 74 and still loves working. Now, they're all require different approaches to. I know the 74-year-old. Yeah, he's not going anywhere. He just enjoys what he does, so he'll stay there for whenever. The 30-year-old, he's happy to work with me because we've worked together for about 7 years, but it's nearly time for him to go and work somewhere else. So I've got to be prepared to say, you actually need to go and work somewhere else for your own growth, your own personal enjoyment. The young 25-year-olds, I should give them 2 or 3, maybe 4 years of my time, and then say, once again, now it's time for you to go. If as a leader, if you're looking at people as just purely just little objects to say, well, I need to get X amount of you out of you every day, I just think that's just leading businesses down the wrong path. And then through the 80s and 90s and in that, I think that's where a lot of businesses have gone compared to where 60s and 70s, and it might be old-fashioned and that, but that loyalty goes both ways, and loyalty provides security and happiness and all the rest of it. So, but for me, a leader's got to be someone that can put the others first before your own personal needs, because it comes back in tenfold.
Absolutely. I really appreciate your ability to reflect on your own journey, and now in a position where you are a leader, where you are a mentor, to be able to realise, maybe through your own family, your own kids, but also through maybe some recent contact with young people and kind of where they're at and what they're exposed to and what's likely for them, you're able to see how, and you said it yourself, now it's time to give back, now it's time to contribute. And look, I really appreciate your time and your generosity of storytelling and sharing. I wonder if you can give back a little more, and that is there an app or a habit or a routine, a rhythm that you have in your life, whether it be a daily thing or a project by project thing, that you have found has stood the test of time, that helps you to show up as your best self? And I appreciate on one level it's going on holidays every 4 or 5 years, but is there something that's perhaps even more regular than that is a go-to for you?
Well, I think that the thing that's made me tick and got me out of bed on every day is a desire to be as good as or build quality things. For me, it's all about quality rather than quantity. So, and you only get out what you put back in. So if you want to build something of quality, or you want to produce quality work, then it requires a lot of effort and hard work, and it doesn't come easy. So it's a matter of doing it on a regular basis. I come from a conservative background anyway, but I'm not the gambler. I don't get out of bed looking for the quick and easy solution result. I'm boring as bat proverbial in terms of I love routine. I love honing a skill to something that just you don't have to think. It is just something that is by nature you do, and that's always for me. Nature's important. So being outside and being out early and just being able to do something that improves the environment that we're in, and the quality of the environment to make things easier or better or something more pleasant is is probably what drives me the most. But it's that desire for quality, and is the real driver for me, that makes me tick, I suppose. And
because of the game that you're in, there are things that are still standing that are still, you can still wander past, or you can go and lean on, or you can go and experience today, that you've had your, literally by the sounds of it, not only the design concept stage, but your hands and your fingers have helped to create? What's one project that you've been part of that you're really proud of? Like one that you were very happy to take your kids to and go, oh, look what Dad made.
Well, there was a lot of streets, but showing my wife curb and channel over the years, it just lost its interest very quickly. So as much as I was proud of that little bit of curb and channel, all those the bluestones are laid in Nicholson Street that are still there and will be there for another 100 years, being involved in the redevelopment of Melbourne Park in 2008 and changing the surface, I was part owner of the company that we changed the surface from the green to the blue, the plexi cushion. And then it was such a great 8 years of where they were redeveloping. So we're involved in the design, the rebuild of the 13 outdoor courts at Eastern Plaza. And then when Margaret Court was putting the roof over, I was the designer for the court surface and the drainage, and then built it as well. So to have an involvement in a project that big, which is literally a world-class venue. There is no other venue from a tennis perspective that around the world that is any better. If not, it is an elite venue from a player's perspective and from a spectator's perspective. So to know that I've been part of that design and been able to actually physically go and lay the drains and lay the court and lay the blue paint, it's been a great been satisfaction, I suppose. Are
there any trade-offs to that? Like, do you get an annual pass that lets you walk in the door anytime you want to go and see concerts, sporting events? Do you have, do they know when you're coming?
This is the irony of it all, is we had the contract for 5 to 8 years to resurface the courts every year. And when the Open's on, part of the contract was that we had to be there from the first ball that was hit to the last ball that was hit in case something happened. If it was back in the McEnroe days, if you took a big chunk out of centre court, I would have to go out there and patch it and make sure that it was playable. At no stage in that 8 years did I ever get a ticket that our company didn't buy itself. We got one president's dinner invitation by Tennis Australia, and there's no sour grapes, but we were effectively a contractor. And even though our service to Tennis Australia, in my view, was second to none, the quality of what we produced and our service to be there whenever they required us was second to none. It was interesting that, so when they rebuilt the MCG and they did the Southern Stand, part of the deal that the unions got up there was that the workers that were there got tickets to the grand final. They got memberships. That didn't happen with Tennis Australia, I can tell you that now. So I still buy my mum a pass for each year so she can go for a day pass, and if I go, I'm still the same. I can walk I've been on, change of courts and when at the end of each game, and I'd run out on the court and check everything and that. I've been all over every millimetre of those 40-odd courts, but it does not give me one iota of extra benefit in the past. It's just, interesting. We rebuilt Carlton's football ground 2 years ago, and I suppose until I actually start producing the goods, I won't get back there at being a Carlton supporter and all. I won't get any free tickets into Icon Park either.
No, it's you're right. That is an interesting back-end perspective on how these places operate, and but it sounds to me that you're going to be the type of leader who's going to be aware of those things that might be able to bring about change. Andrew Morrow from the class of 1984, you have been generous with your time. I want to move now into just a short and sharp moment where I'm going to fling a whole lot of short, sharp questions at you, and it might be that some of them are on the tip of the tongue, and others you might have to kind of dwell on a little bit longer. But this is the quick fire round, and I wonder if we might begin with, can you recall what was the house that you were in when you were back at Yarra?
Annals.
And were annals any good back in your day?
In the middle.
Okay.
In terms of athletics, soccer, football. Yeah, in the middle.
You've mentioned your creativity. I wonder, was there a drama or a musical or a performance that you either gave and delivered or you were in the audience that comes to mind?
The best I ever did was being prompter on Macbeth in the background where no one could see me, and that's exactly where I wanted to be. So, no, standing up on stage and public speaking, still to this day, is something I despise.
When you were back at school, what would we likely see in your lunchbox?
Oh, okay. Pretty good on wraps, sultanas, carrots, apples. Had a fairly, even though a small, skinny bloke, had a fairly substantial lunch.
And who made it?
Yeah, mother.
Good on your mum. I'm glad that you now still buy her a season pass or at least a day pass to the tennis. What was your first car that you remember owning and driving?
Had a little Gemini GL, bought from down in Ringwood. Had that, that was actually, believe it or not, it was nearly, the first car. And then you get into construction, the things called utes are available and they get given to you. So, it's probably about the only, I've bought a family car since, but that was it, a white Gemini.
Would you prefer house swimming or house aths?
I didn't mind both. I was probably at that stage, I hadn't swum a lot, but athletics, running, distance running.
Yeah, okay. Did you have a nickname when you were back at school?
Yeah, muscles.
Oh, and because?
Because there was a lack of.
Is there a piece of work that you're particularly proud of, whether it was an artwork, whether it was an essay that you really slaved away at, or whether it was a test that you got, full marks for that you can remember?
Look, it probably actually was in the jewellery class in year 10, working with my hands again in metallurgy, making jewellery. Made a few pieces there that I'd never had the opportunity to do that. So I'd done woodwork before. But Yarra didn't have a woodworking class, so I went into that. So, yeah, certainly remember that and certainly happy with how I ended up in the tennis team and in the soccer team. So playing in the first in year 10 and 11 was a good achievement from my perspective.
Absolutely. I wonder if I can offer a phrase to you. It's our school motto, Levavi Oculus, and whether you recall what that means and what does it mean?
Yeah, look, to be honest, I was asked that the other day, and I mean, for me, lifting your eyes up was something that there was opportunities out there, and if you've got the courage to go out and grab them, get out of your comfort zone. To me, that's what it means. I mean, it was always something that I needed a little bit of a cattle prod to push me out of my comfort zone. But once I got out, the enjoyment that came from new experiences. So for me, that's probably what it would represent.
My final question, and I want you to answer the question and then answer the question, and that is, what's the one question that you really wanted me to ask that I haven't asked?
That's a good one. I suppose what's been the most important facet of your last 30 odd years since leaving school? I think school is a great it's a great time in a young person's life. There's a lot going on mentally, physically, and that at the same time. I look back on it. For me, had you asked, are you still in contact with anyone? I've got 4 mates that I met halfway through year 9, and they're my closest mates. One I travelled around Europe with, and out of the 4 of us, I wasn't closest to him, but he just happened to be in Europe at the time, and we just hit it off. We never had an argument. We're dissimilar enough that we don't do the same things. But for me, to have those 4 guys and travel through life and through kids and family and travel, and still to be in contact, even though, not involved directly at the school, having those lifelong experiences with those mates there. Had you asked me about that, that's probably the question that, because it's when you have highs and lows, you rely on those guys. I mean, they know me intimately, from first time being drunk to first girlfriend to first child to first job and all the rest of it. So when you think back on it, you're 15 or 55. They've been there, significant part of my life. We might catch up 3 times a year, if that. We might only talk 6 times a year, but still to this day, we can see each other at a restaurant with family, and it's just like winding the clock back to year 10 and and mucking around. Had you asked me about any connections and school friends are you still in contact, I would have liked to talk about them.
Beautiful. Well, you just have, and I appreciate that, because I like the full circle that we've come from, you coming to Yarra, not knowing anybody, and then getting connected fairly quickly, perhaps through sport, but there's obviously some similarity there amongst your mates, and then those mates some 40 years later still being a core part of your life through all of the highs and lows and twists and turns. And I guess they even appreciate your curb and channel that you've made over the years as well.
Not really.
Andrew Morrow from the class of 1984, thank you for your time. Thanks for taking us on the journey. Thanks for sharing your reflections, your observations, and your wisdom that you've gained by having a go and by being flexible and adaptable to turn your hand to whatever presents. And in the midst of it, to me, it seems, you've been willing to have a go, but you've also been methodical and strategic along the way, and bringing those things into your experience that you've really wanted and that you've valued. I appreciate that you have been inspired by Yarra and are an inspiration to Yarra. So we give you our thanks and appreciate your time. Thank you.
I appreciate your time, Paul. I've enjoyed, as much as it's out of my comfort zone a bit, I've enjoyed the chat.
There you go. What a storyteller. What a talker. Can talk, but did really well, despite him suggesting that it's not necessarily within his comfort zone. He did a terrific job, and I really appreciate his time and his, as I mentioned, his wisdom, his generosity, his availability and willingness to share from his life experience thus far. Love that notion of purpose and the idea and the intent that he has every day to do the best he can, to build, to create quality, not necessarily quantity, but to do the best he can with what he's got and get the best out of the people that he works with and works for and works alongside, and indeed amongst it all is seeking to get the very best out of himself. I hope that you did enjoy this conversation, and if you did, we'd love you to give us a rating and a review in your podcast player. That helps more people to get to know about the podcast, and just helps to maybe grow the audience a little bit and allow others to come and find us too. YOGs are encouraged to look us up on LinkedIn and join the group Yarra Old Grammarians Connect. It helps you to stay in touch with the wider YOG community. Of course, we're available. You can reach out to us at podcast@yvg.vic.edu.au. We'd love to get emails from you. You can find us on the web. And I hope you'll join us again next episode when we sit down with another Yarra Old Grammarian and see how they too have been inspired by Yarra. My name's Paul Joy, and on behalf of everyone here at Yarra, I want to wish you another day of inspiration where you go out there with your personality, with intentionality, to make a positive impact in the world around you.